So this is one of the things I have in my portfolio, this Tetra container. But basically, like everything's kind of mirror, but it's kind of mirroring on different axes. So I can get something really complicated in not so much time.
Wow, man, that's cool.
By
So
the
much
way,
detail.
this was also ripped as
Yeah.
yogurt packaging.
Yogurt packaging?
Yeah, something like that. Crazy.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jonathan from Autodesk. Welcome to ShopTalk. Today, we're speaking with Ivan from Mother. Ivan is a world-class designer that's done some amazing things in the entertainment industry and consumer products. Ivan is so good at this that people are literally copying his designs based on renderings. And it's just a rendering. It's not even like they didn't even have the model. They just go by a rendering and they could just make the thing exactly how he imagined it. Yeah, it's mind-blowing. Okay, Ivan, also known as Mother. Welcome.
Yeah, thank
Am
you.
I
Thank you
am I
very much.
mispronouncing the handle there?
Yeah, it's good. Sounds good.
Mother. Why did you pick that name?
For multitude of reasons, and it was quite early. Like it was like 2K, and I was searching for some kind of identity. And as a kid, everyone had some sort of nickname in the game. They still do. So, but I was searching for something I can kind of identify. Because the mother of all creations, Mother Nature, like there is like different meanings behind it, and also I wanted something to have something more organic in the name, and so that came out like almost like an instinct, and the logo itself was also quite interesting, and like you can draw it like while not lifting your hand over the paper, like in just one move. So this is also interesting thing as well, and it's almost impossible to draw it perfectly. Like to draw this shape perfectly, like you basically need computer. So because automotive surfacing is actually contained in that logo itself, and I actually figured that later. I did it kind of instinctively, and then I realized what I did after the fact as well. So it was almost subconscious. So yeah, I mean that way I'm still using it after all these years, and now more or less it's yeah, maybe it's all an identity, but it's also a company name. So
Yeah. So can you tell us about how you got started in all this? I mean, you said it was your gamer handle, right? So maybe is video games kind of how you got interested in design to begin with?
I was actually my first. I don't know, like should I start from my university or even before? Maybe even before. I was actually thinking like to go to the art academy, but I had the issue like I had so many things I was interested with, so I couldn't really. So I always had the problem with specialization in a way. Like now society tells you like you have to sit down and pick just one thing you're going to do, and also at the time like I thought like as I was interested in so many things, I had issue like concentrating on just one. Like that felt completely unnatural. But I picked history, so I finished a university. Like I have BA in history, and this actually these days comes quite handy because when you're doing design, like the culture is behind it. So at the end, like I guess everything made sense, even though it didn't make sense at the very first. And I'm telling this story not so much because of myself, maybe more because of people who are trying new things, and like sometimes like they think like there's something wrong with them. Sometimes society tells you think you like you should do, but like as one when you're designing, like you have to be thinking, and if you don't know how to think, first of all, you can't design anything.
That is fascinating. You're the first person I've talked to in this this line of work that started with history as a background, and that makes perfect sense. I mean, it's like you said. There's a cultural what's the word? There culture is embodied in the objects around us, right? And the objects that last, that we care about, that we still want, the buildings people take pilgrimages to,
The
the things
emotional
that are.
response, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And those emotional responses, you can't separate that from culture. I think a lot of times, I don't know if you saw this in design school, but I certainly did, where it's almost like a leftover from the mid 20th century. It's this kind of Bauhaus idea that ornament is crime, and you need pure form, and everything needs to be it's this idea of like of purity, of something that's you're getting back to like first principles geometry or something like that. And we just end up making these objects in buildings that are boring and meaningless, and that don't really carry any cultural weight. There's
I
exceptions to that,
completely
but
agree with that because change is not always progress.
yeah,
And these days we also like hearing like we should you like you should go forward. I mean, depends like where you're standing already. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because when you look at your work, it doesn't, it's not like you're making Baroque objects, right? You're not doing some, Victorian simulacra thing where you're trying to make this look like something, you know, um, William Morris would design or something. You're
Mhm.
definitely doing your own thing, and it's clearly your own voice. But you've got certain projects where I look at them and I can see that. Like there is this, what is this one called? I'm just going to keep looking at my phone as we
Sure,
talk
sure.
because it's, I just, part of it is I can't stop looking at your work because it's so beautiful. But,
Thank you.
at the same time, it's going to be helpful. The DX12, it's a gun, right? Um,
Yeah, I'm mostly famous because of the shotgun design online.
okay.
And actually, this became bigger than I was even hoping, and maybe even too big because there are a couple of products now on the out. Like, uh, yeah, I wouldn't call them like they're licensed, but they're based on exactly this design. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And like, when you look at that particular design, it's a crack barrel shotgun, which it's a very old device. I mean, those were invented, if I'm not mistaken, in the 19th century, maybe even early 19th century, right? Very early design for that object, but you've got this like super clean, modern look to it, contemporary look to it, I should say. Um, is that a good example of kind of history informing
it
something?
is.
Yeah.
I was listening. What was your interpretation? Because also I don't think like I should like tell people what they should think about what I have designed. I think the design should tell the whole story. And I think the best designers in that way are the unknown one. You don't actually know because you don't need to know. Like I don't consider designers like as rock stars or celebrities, even though like if someone designed a Ferrari or something like that, they could be considered one like good designer, like he's changing society, without even society knowing who he is. And I kind of like that kind of paradigm. So like I can even give a fun example. Like no one knows what's true God's name, but everyone knows that there is someone who kind of created everything, if you believe so. So.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in design world, like many people believe in these kind of great architects of things. And if you see the anatomy of every person, like every living, there is some sort of sense to it. So the evolution of that is quite interesting in that way because it's designed. So how evolution can be designed. So yeah, there are a lot of questions. So basically doing designs, I was actually answering my own questions I had about life and myself. So in short.
Wow. Man, that's super interesting. It's almost like this is going to sound kind of cliche, but it sort of reminds me of Da Vinci's work. So not so much the work itself, but the way he approached it was sort of this he's a polymath, right? It's the art as a way of exploring something, of learning, right? Of thinking. It's, you look at his, that famous sketchbook. Somebody made a compilation of sketches and like kind of ideas and stuff like that, and you see this inquiry going into it, where it's not so much that every little scribble becomes some master painting, right? It's all just kind of part of him trying to understand the world, right? There's a kind of an assumption that goes into it that there is order there, and what he's trying to do is find that order and understand what it is, you know.
Yeah, like when I'm thinking about him, I like to think that he's like um, his genius was about balancing both the left and the right side of the brain. Like now, as we are working as before at the very start, we were talking about specialization. In my opinion, specialization is more like less like concentrating, or are you left or right-sided brain? Are you going for the arts, or are you going for something completely rational? And also in design, what's kind of rational is also irrational, because if you're a really rational person, you'll be only basing your designs outcome on the existing solutions. So in that way, as designer, you're actually rational, but the rational part of the brain will tell you that you can only kind of approve or give faith to something which is already existing. So if we put in another example, like after the him, I'll maybe talk about Tesla, but not about Elon Musk. I think like the Tesla was also like interesting. This is the only scientist slash inventor, because there is a quite difference between inventor and scientist. And scientists for me are more like theoretical people and so on. But Tesla was both. Or I don't know, like, was he even thinking like
Yeah.
what he is? Like, I don't think he was defined in that way, and like he never got a Nobel Prize for his work and so on. But I don't have a problem with that, because I think he was actually bigger than
Yeah.
Nobel Prize, because if you think who he was and what Nobel was like,
Right.
so in that way, it's perfect actually.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. What?
the Nobel Prize maybe should be called Tesla. So kind of everything kind of comes together when I'm like thinking and looking at these kind of minds. And I'm not even trying to compare even a bit by anyone. It's
Yeah.
more like the process of learning and getting something out of them. Like I'm myself, I'm a visual person, but I'm trying like to allow my creativity like to grow. And also there is a difference between when you're working in a big company and a small company. um, there's some dynamics in a big company you have to respect, and as a small company, you can't afford to be unsuccessful. The only thing you have to respect is actually success itself, I guess, and problem solving of your clients in that way. So yeah. Um, yeah, so I don't know, like there's a lot of different things I'm kind of thinking at the same time. Also, when doing design, using Fusion, like Fusion for me is also interesting. Like you start with Sketch and then you start extrude this into more physical dimension, and and I was talking before, like I don't like constraints, but in Fusion I like constraints.
Yeah.
So because this is something which gives me control. So, and I'm one of the guys who is actually using procedural modeling
Yeah.
in those regards, to make things kind of a bit more specific. What can be an outcome, like using an actual tool like Fusion. And in that way, like I have to say, like the Fusion like also went through a lot of changes and still does. Um, I hear like some people complaining it's not stable. For me, it's actually perfect these days. So more or less, like I'm thinking I have more issues about thinking the actual design than the tool itself. Um, so in that way, procedural modeling is also the thing I'm doing, but a lot of my colleagues don't, because this ultimate control sometimes like it's becomes cumbersome on their side. They like to have more freedom, but I would like to have, as you already noticed in my portfolio, to have kind of this autistic kind of surfacing. It's
Hmm.
not still automotive surfacing on. It's still on that level, but I still wanna kind of appreciate that in a sense.
I think one of the things that comes through in your work is it looks so real, right? It looks like these are real objects that could be, some I don't know, some military piece of kit that's really high end special forces, something like that, or some really cool high end product from a company we all know. For kind of an alternative technological paradigm where we still have physical media or something like that, right? Um, I when you compare your work to other entertainment design you see out there that you could easily put in the same category, the thing, that reality that comes through where it looks like it's something that could be manufactured, I think part of that is because that is how you're designing, right? You're talking about some of your peers who basically just approach it like sculpture. That's kind of the classic way it's been done, right? You go into some modeling environment, you're dealing with mesh or subdivided surfaces, that kind of thing, NURBS, whatever it is. You're sculpting things. You've got a picture in your head of what you want, maybe some sketches or whatever, but doing it the way you're doing it, where it's what you're calling procedural design. I'd like you to elaborate on that too, but um, using like approaching this as how would this thing be built in the real world, hypothetically. That's what makes these things so like eye popping and so real, I think. Is
Yeah,
that it
that's
was
interesting aspect because I think it's good you have mentioned because there's some things which are side effect of manufacturing, like of the mold process and so on. This is not like there's some things you can't leave out of that process when you are holding the product, like the post production needed to get clear some of this kind of manufacturing even defects, but this is what your brain interprets what's kind of real as
yeah,
well. So in that way, it's actually a welcome if you can imitate some of that. If you are, for example, not going to manufacture it, but you can imitate it. And in terms of that, what you also said is also like I'm like doing fillets and beveling stuff in the 3D. In manufacturing, I wouldn't because this some of those will be defined by the mold injection process itself. So the plastic injected will be like you will never end with this kind of very sharp edges in that sense on some certain parts of the tools or weapons or whatever in terms of entertainment design or whatever on toys or whatever you like doing. So in that way, like this is quite interesting. Like in 3D, like I have a feeling that in 3D I'm adding defects, and like when you're doing photography, you're cleaning defects. So I don't know, maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle as well. But the problem with 3D is like that it's kind of too clean. So your brain already knows it's fake
yeah.
because it doesn't have experience holding anything in real life with these certain qualities. So as I already mentioned, like learning about this process, I also kind of learned about myself and how my brain is like looking at things and the world around it. So
You must approach your work that way to some extent as well, because everything fits together. It's like you can't see your logo or your website or anything. It's all totally cohesive somehow. And I know that you're working. Obviously, your clients are all over the place. They make all kinds of different things. They make cars and computer parts and video games and everything else. But like, there's this consistency to your work there that must come from a kind of a cohesive approach to it all, right?
yeah, as I was saying, like I'm always trying to allow myself to think, and sometimes when you're kind of inclined too much to the I like rules in the sketch in the Fusion sketch, but I don't wanna obey kind of I say too many rules. Like to have someone tell me like how you should think. Like for example, what's the difference? Because at the point you become talking about the client relationship, client come to you to usually to solve something. But if you become a service, like he will start using you as a tool in that sense. You won't be able to help him because if he knew the original solution, he'll be doing that himself already.
Mhm.
So like you can think like if you make some relationship, and sometimes it's really hard to say something you think because it could be situations where a client wouldn't like to hear. Like if you have to change something, then you'll have to be critical of something. And if something's perfect, then there is no need to change. So if the client comes for the change and he thinks their brand is perfect, then I don't think you have any, you can't do anything about it. You can't help him, you can't help yourself at the same time. So yeah, also as I said, like doing design, I kind of learned a lot about people, and like everything comes in patterns nowadays, like through some sort of experience. You kind of notice which things kind of repeat, and you can already like from couple of sentences or just the brief. For me, like the perfect brief is like 5 sentences long, 6 sentences long. As soon it kind of becomes something huge, an essay or something like there is no room to grow, like it's already completely defined. And in the brainstorming, this kind of first phase, I'm also like, it's not about me what I'm trying, what I want. Like I'm also trying to identify what are the key points of the project, what has to be done. There is no me, there is no client, there is a problem someone has to solve. Maybe client can do that after you gave a couple of hints and input. But for certain, like everyone in the process has to be open about it. And yeah, otherwise, I did some beta testing of the different apps as well. So I went through this process as well. And giving feedback, like it's not always the easiest thing, like sometimes you should be kind of more constrained. Sometimes you should like talk loud. But I think the best is like when you also provide work on top. So this is maybe like this is the purpose, for example, of portfolio. So I'm not doing, for example, art tests or any of that. I'm against it. I think instead of art test, like the portfolio is there, like to prove are you capable of it or not. In that sense, no need to lose any time, or I say, or to have a headache of something like are you good enough or not. Like if you have a good portfolio. So yeah.
Speaking of your portfolio, most of what everybody is going to be familiar with that's watching this is the renderings that are on your social media and your website and so on. But I understand you've got some physical artifacts for us to look at as well.
Yeah, this is something which is based on one of my designs. It has a different function now. Like that was more like entertainment design piece. Now like it exists as a mosquito repellent. So it was interesting interpretation of something I have designed. And basically, I was actually using Fusion for that. And yeah, it looks like a full copy of what I have designed with a different purpose at the very beginning, but now is a real product. But this one is definitely a better reference because of the it's exactly interpretation of the materials which were defined in the render itself. Even the decals and even the little manual under is kind of there. So yeah, like a true copy of the. So it's also interesting. Like if I compare it to my renders, like you have this kind of roughness, and then you have the kind of surfacing which is kind of still made, but it's kind of without this roughness texture on top of it.
So they
So
they literally copied every detail of that
yeah,
design.
yeah. Pretty successful job so far, I have to say. In terms of
Wow.
that, the clips. This was, I think, the clips was maybe the hardest part from my point of view, like to replicate.
Do they work?
Because, but yeah, everything kind of works, and so yeah.
And the clips are functional?
Yeah, they are, they
Oh
are,
wow.
because if I'll be thinking like what will be the problematic, then I'll be thinking about the clips because the clips are the part of the product which connects the top and the bottom. So in that way, it's the most problematic technically. But it's not problematic. I think the end, like the idea, is the most important, and you will always find a way to come out for solution, even if you had some problems in your original idea. So
I think it's interesting though that that object in particular, it's a testament to the quality of your work that somebody was able to just copy it and actually manufacture it exactly the way that you imagined it would be manufactured with working clips and everything and where the parting lines would be and all that stuff. Yeah, it's super interesting.
It's interesting when you design. It's also testament, which I didn't know, but after the fact, now I can see it was a testament um, that if it's existing and if they manage to produce an exact replica of the render, uh, so I don't have any issues with it in terms of like the technicalities and so on. Like it's a testament that those were kind of good renders as well.
Sure.
So I don't like when things change for the worse because of some manufacturing problems and so I mean nobody likes that, you know. But also plastic as a material for me is quite interesting. Maybe it's not ecological, but first plastic was meant to replace wood, and the first plastic itself was imitating wood itself. And then if you look at these products from that era, how they look like it's all weird, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, I prefer plastic uh, when it's not trying to imitate something
Hmm.
which is already existing, because you can't imitate something which is perfect, and wood as such is perfect.
Right.
It's also material which came from something living basically, and plastic or backlight, all these materials are kind of were always dead
Yeah.
in a sense. So there is also this kind of paradigm going on, like about materials. So and also in terms of the history, this is why history for me was important, because I could kind of see into some cultural aspects how the nations and civilizations were progressing, and actually taking knowledge from each other, like passing the torch as well, and designs. Unfortunately, most of these designs in history were like for fighting wars, I guess.
Yeah.
So the military, this was always the most advanced maybe part of the society in terms of like design inventions and so on, and then science and basically inventors were coming into the picture if they like contribute something of their own in that sense. So it's definitely fascinating for me. Like sometimes I don't go like too deep or too far away. For me, it's enough like to just like, as we were also talking about the automotive industry as it was existing like all the time. It wasn't like in the bigger scale, like it's just last couple of hundred. You know, it's not really years. Like it's actually quite short cycle.
Hmm.
And now we came to the robot era, which I kind of expect the robots will replace cars in a sense as the most important thing
Mm.
in your life, as also AI kind of took over, or it was unleashed from the chain. Maybe it was there for some longer time, uh, because from what I understand, the internet was also a military tech,
Hmm.
talking about inventions altogether.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, that's a good segue to the wrap up question. So we've been talking about this is very, future thinking and what's coming and like what kind of world do we imagine in the future. So the scenario is that the zombie apocalypse happened and the future has been short circuited. So if you have to start over, where do you begin?
My biggest issue will be if I have to start from scratch, because I'll have to first build some assets, and then I'll be able to build the whole story out of it.
So you start with the pieces. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like asset management of Fusion is quite interesting topic, and but also to mention like the tools itself. Like to use the screw, you need a tool,
Yeah.
and my tool nowadays is Fusion.
Yeah.
Like this is what I'm using. Like to screw my design and everything kind of all together. And like stability, being able to go back to the sketch also as my process is like also a lot of refining until I find something I'm satisfied with, which means I'll have to go always back and forth in the time as I'm like going in this conversation. I'm
Mm.
also doing this in my design process just as well. So it could be like I have to go like a couple of days back,
Yeah.
and then I have this kind of snapshot in the cloud, and I can go back. Sometimes, if you're using direct modeling, you can still go back because direct modeling allows you to modify a fillet and so on.
Mm.
But for smaller designs, like a procedural history is definitely way to go. And this is why I embraced Fusion among some other CAD tools, because of course Fusion is not the only one. But procedural modeling, and still it's not that I find Fusion easy to use, easy to learn, uh, and it also became easier to use and learn in recent versions. Um, and I can do a lot with a short timeline of these kind of changes in design. So just as well. And also, like for me, configurations as one of the new things in the Fusion, it was quite a hot topic, because if you are making something modular and so on, like this is the way to go. I have some projects in Fusion,
Uh-huh.
considering like the Fusion is the centerpiece.
Uh-huh.
Uh, do you want to show some of that?
Yeah.
So this is Tetra. So this is
Nice.
this famous timeline I was talking about.
Oh, it looks so clean.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
this was the point why I'm using Fusion, and then
Wow.
so this is one of the things I have in my portfolio, this Tetra container. But basically, like everything's kind of mirror, but it's kind of mirroring on different axes. So I can get something really complicated in not so much time.
Wow. Man, that's cool.
By
So
the
much
way,
detail.
this was also ripped by China as
Yeah.
yogurt packaging.
Yogurt packaging?
Yeah, something like that. Crazy.
That doesn't seem very practical for yogurt packaging.
Uh, it's on the packaging of the world. I can later send you a link if you want to
Yeah.
see. But they have
Crazy.
used this pattern here. Shape is a little bit changed, but the overall form is completely the same. And yeah, someone else stamped their logo on it.
Well, I mean, it's a compliment, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
I agree. I agree. And then another thing are these kind of grenades,
wow.
but they're not really designed as grenades. They can be designed as a packaging or perfume
Uh-huh.
or whatever. This is also part of the tutorial. This part I can show.
Mm.
This is also rigged.
Whoa. Cool.
Let me actually go to the render mode.
Wow, man. And again, something that's you could just make that. I mean, all of the all the geometry is rational. You could totally imagine how that would be injection molded. You've got separate parts for everything. It's just like it's so cool.
I mean, for this, I'm using a pipe for
Uh-huh.
separation, and
Yeah. You're a
even though
crazy
it was
person.
a bit tedious to do, but considering I'm
Uh-huh.
doing
I'm sure it
more
was.
tasks on different design, now I'm able to. I mean, I'm still not considering myself a great modeler, but yeah, at the end I'll come there, I guess.
Yeah. Wow, man. All right, I think we got to wrap it up here. But thanks again, Ivan. This is fascinating stuff. Great work.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be around for anything you need, guys. So yeah,
Okay.
it was a pleasure to meeting you, not just because of the podcast itself, and yeah,
Yeah. Thanks,
and
Ivan.
thank you for the opportunity as well.
Hey everyone, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all things ShopTalk. If you're ready to try Fusion for yourself, find the link in our description.